Okay, here we have a conversation between Stacy Robinson of the 8-month-old Raleigh Ledger. Stacy has stepped out and started a brand new venture, a new newspaper in this day and age. And Fritz Arrowsmith, who started publishing the Solon Economist in Iowa 60 years ago. And they're going to talk a little bit about the newspaper business. And clearly it's a lot different now than it was then. But so I'm going to put the floor over to the two of you.
Okay. So now how long did you run the newspaper?
Oh, that one particular one we only had about 7 years, I think.
Okay. Did you sell it, or did you?
We sold it, and then we sold it to some other people, yes. Anyway, the interesting thing is, I was telling you about the machine we had to run it. We had no employees to start with. We had the equipment we used took up a room that was about 30 by 60 feet.
30 by 60.
And 2 years ago, I was back visiting the newspaper, and they were publishing a newspaper about the size of your paper. But they had a little room about 10 by 15 room.
10 by 15, really?
With three, I think they had three, but they had three, what do you call them?
Machines, the typing?
Computers.
Typing machines,
Computers.
yes. So that's the difference.
Now, had you been in publishing before you purchased that community newspaper?
No, I just worked for newspapers around the state.
Okay. What did you do for those newspapers? Were you a journalist?
I did mechanical work. I was in the composing room. I worked for 4 or 5 weekly newspapers, and then went to Council Bluffs, Iowa, working a small daily, and then to Omaha after the war in a fairly large newspaper.
Now, what year did you retire from that? You said you sold the newspaper after about 7 years, so sometime in the mid-50s, is that right?
Oh, we sold that newspaper in 1960. 62, 63.
Would have been before that because you bought it in 48.
Yeah, 48. Well, in 50. In the 50s we sold it. And went to, and I worked in a labor paper in Cedar Rapids, Iowa for a few months, and then we bought another newspaper in Wilton.
With community newspapers back then, were they political, or were they? Because I know a lot of newspapers now, community newspapers especially, have taken that slant. Ours does not, but
yeah. Well, the only thing I can tell you about it is that one particular. We weren't political, no. We run some. We didn't have an editorial as such. My wife wrote a column, but. Strictly chit-chat.
Yeah. There was a lot of who had dinner at whose house and social news, right?
Social news.
Well, the newspaper was just social news, yes. Weddings. And occasionally we'd have a story about something that was going on. Of course, the city, in the town, there was not a lot of politics. Pretty much, the town we were in was 90% Catholic.
Was it? So 90% Catholic. So you said you had a circulation of 700, 800?
About 700.
About 700? Were community newspapers back then, it seems one trend that, and you did this a lot longer than I did, so forgive me for saying, but I think community newspapers have always been, they've traded hands very quickly, which made them something of an investment.
They did what?
They became something of an investment.
Oh yes, and we lived an investment. We lived on it.
Was the idea to sell it initially, or did that just come about?
I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was asking, when you first bought it, was the idea to build it up and then maybe sell it? Is that kind of investment?
Well, not particularly. We just wanted a newspaper.
Yeah.
I think what you said in the first video that you did is that after a certain amount of years, it just wasn't as much of a challenge anymore, right?
Now, getting a paper to print obviously has changed quite a bit. How would you get a paper to print back in those days?
Well, it was just the two of us. My wife did all the writing, most all the writing, and I did the mechanical work. And it occupied, getting it ready took about 3 days' time.
Is that it?
In that time, too, one or the other of us had to be out selling advertising. And after we had it, we have the type all set and everything ready to go in the usually about Wednesday afternoon. And we'd put it all together in pages and print it. We had a big press that we printed on. Not like your speed presses today. Probably print about 1,000 an hour. And in 4 pages at a time.
Was it a weekly paper or a daily?
Weekly
it was a weekly paper.
Uh-huh.
Did you have regular stories, columns on what was going on in the community, certain features that you always printed every week, or?
Oh, not particularly, no. Like I say, my wife wrote a column, but other than that, it was just stories about weddings and funerals and what was going on in the town and people. And we used to run little articles about so-and-so business, so-and-so.
And high school sports.
High school sports.
High school sports, of course. High school sports was a big thing. Other than that, it was just locals. It was of no interest to anybody but the people that lived in the town.
Yeah.
And of course, some of them used to make fun of it, but they still read it.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, admittedly, we newspaper publishers are very spoiled now with the amount of software and technology.
Oh.
And being able to take digital photographs and upload them right into the pages.
A lot different now.
A lot different.
Well, remember that big old camera you had, and when you took a picture, what'd you have to do?
Oh, we had to take it to Iowa City and have it developed.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And then you had to have it printed.
And send it someplace and have an engraving made. So it was, we didn't do a lot of pictures because it was,
Big process.
It was too time consuming. You couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Even the daily papers didn't run many. Daily papers didn't run any colored pictures or anything like that like they do today.
What was your process for advertising sales? You were in a small town, people read the paper, but how'd you get people to say yes to an advertisement?
Well, we just call on people, and we had regular advertisers like grocery stores and stuff, banks and stuff, and the banks usually had their own ads. We would either make up an ad or they would. And we'd call on everybody every week. And when we were in Seoul in the first little paper one, I think it was, I recall, one week we went to Cedar Rapids a day. And the next week we went to Iowa City a day to try to sell advertising.
Would you go, would you walk into businesses and
walk into them. Usually we had ones that we always called on, but every once in a while, if you had time, you'd call on new people to see if they were interested.
Do you think, because there's a lot of talk, a lot of people have said, bigger publications like the big circulation newspapers are suffering, if you will, and there's talk of people wanting to stop printing on paper and have newspapers strictly be online. Do you think that community newspapers have more of a lasting, more of, I guess, a longer lifespan because people still want to read about their community, they still want to have a paper?
I think so. A lot of people do. If I could read. I would still take the papers.
Yeah, I get that a lot. A lot of people say, I've had people encourage me to do an exclusively online newspaper, which is, an up-and-coming idea. And but I get a lot of people that say, they still really like to have a community newspaper, something tangible that they can hold in their hand and learn about, what's going on in their community. And I think that's very true.
Now, do you sell newspapers? Do you sell advertising?
We're gonna stop just for a minute and pick this right back up.